I was trained as a lawyer, but my background was really in finance and math. And in 1998, I was at a company, and our general counsel was lazy, and we got sued for patent infringement. So the company didn't know what to do, so they said, well, you used to be a lawyer, you handle it. And so I was just fascinated by it, and fortunately I had access to the internet. So I knew about as much about patents as many as you, which was very little. First thing I found out was that the concept of patents had been around forever. So first patents credited to the Athenians in Greek times, and if you disclosed your recipe and won a recipe contest, they gave you exclusive rights to your recipe for some period of time, 6 months, a year, whatever it was. Then what I found out was that actually all our patent law, including here in Taiwan, traces back to something that the Venetians did in the 1400s. And that the British did in the 1500s. So these concepts that patent lawyers talk about have been around forever, and I think that's why the area of law is so complicated. And so that was all I really needed to understand. And then the next part is that, and this is really important, it's a right to exclude, it's not a right to practice. So if you have a great patent, that's wonderful, except for understand that the only thing it gives you is a right to exclude others from doing whatever it is you have the right to do. So really important. Then let's assume you get past all the things that YT talked about and you're the proud owner of a patent. Now what? That's where I came in. And I started to realize that there was this incredible arbitrage opportunity that existed simply because people didn't really understand what a patent was or how to effectively utilize it. So if I'm an inventor, and let's put aside for a minute that I'm a prestigious university, I'm an inventor and I have a patent, the first thing you want to do is actually read it. It's really sad. One of the things we find is that inventors give too much discretion to their patent lawyer, and the patent lawyers will just run off and invent and change the disclosure or change whatever it is that the inventor wanted to do simply so they can get it through the patent office. That's a big mistake. If you're going to take the time to be an inventor, be an inventor. You wouldn't turn your research paper over to somebody and never look at it again. Maybe you give it to your TA or to your research assistant, but you're going to look at it before you submit it to the committee for peer review. Make sure you do the same thing as an inventor. So then you say, okay, I've got a patent. Does anybody infringe it? That's the only way you can make money if somebody infringes. So they don't infringe your concept, they infringe your patent. Okay, so that's a really important point to keep straight, is that the concept that you invented is wonderful, but if the words in your patent don't cover that concept, then nobody owes you any money. So you fast forward and you say, great, I've got something that somebody infringes, what do I do? And you go to talk to them, and the first thing they tell you is, well, I don't do that. And you're like, well, but I think you do. You have white papers out there that say that this is what you're doing. That's just marketing. Don't believe that that's what we do. And so their goal is to pay you nothing. Understand that. So then you take a step back and you're like, all right, am I going to make the additional investment to actually now try to enforce this? Well, there's actually only one way to enforce it, and it's an incredibly inefficient way. As a matter of fact, if all of us got together and sat down in a room for a couple months, I'm pretty confident we could not come up with a more inefficient way to enforce them, and that's the court system. And it's a difficult decision, and it's a huge investment. You want to do your best to try to convince people through information that they are in fact infringing your patent, but if you're asking for any meaningful amount of money, chances are you're going to have to go to the court to get it. That process is absolutely miserable, and it's only effective in a couple of jurisdictions. So, for example, I'm sure that you have patent law here and it's relevant, but I wouldn't want to come here and have an argument with a local company about whether or not they infringed my patent or not. So again, if you're going to take the time to do it, probably want to invest in adding and getting your patent validated in other jurisdictions like the US and China and Europe, where those things are much more accepted and patent litigation is just accepted as a way of life. So now looking at it as taking a step further back, you want to say, listen, as an inventor, why did I do it? And so I've dealt with many university professors and many universities in dealing with their patent portfolio. And I actually think that one of the things that universities need to do first is to decide whether or not they should even be patented. Generally, it's a waste of money. So about 2% of the world's patents ever transact. So you need to say, am I patenting just because I want the prestige of saying that I have a number of patents? If that's what you want to do, then you can save a lot of money because you can get your patents done for about $1,000 a piece, and say you actually got a lot of patents. They'll be worthless, but you'll be able to check a box and say you have lots of them. Second thing is you can accomplish a lot through papers and disclosure, and not invest the amount of time that you need to in patenting. And some universities that I talk to, they say our mission is actually to disclose information. We love it that you're a capitalist, Eric, and good for you, but we're not. Our goal is just to disclose information. And what I say to them is, I said, that's fine. I said, but there's much more ways to disclose that learning and that information other than through the patent system. Why would you incur that expense and inefficiency to disclose that knowledge when you could simply publish a paper and accomplish the same thing? But let's just say that they say, well, listen, you know what, our professors do want to make money, and many systems in the U.S. Have systems where the professors or inventors are entitled to somewhere between 15 and 50% of whatever the university makes in enforcing the patent, and that's a huge incentive for some universities. In the U.S., Carnegie Mellon is well known for that. Iowa State is actually bizarrely well known for that. And the professors who are successful actually make a significant amount of money over and above their professor salaries, far more than their professor salaries do. So those that want to go down that path, that's where we came in. And what we did was that the universities didn't have financing to do it, so we came in and provided the expertise and the financing to effectively teach them how to do it. My personal view is that as difficult as it is, that the process of patenting, and as you're going through that process, you're going to question it and wonder whether or not it is worthwhile. In fact, it is worthwhile. And I have the utmost respect for inventors, regardless of whether or not their patents are infringed or used by anyone. It's a difficult process, and anyone who has one has gone through a significant amount of effort to achieve it. And so I hold them in high regard for that very simple reason. Those that make money, I actually hold in even higher regard because I know how hard they have to work. One of the things that Professor Shim said that's critical to understand is that depending on your perspective, they will, some companies make an effort to discredit the inventor however they can. And so in the US, for example, whereas people like Edison and whatnot were at one time held in extremely high regard, and you had people who said, hey, I want to be an inventor, that today that's not as common as it once was. And so things like open source, things have changed people's views on whether or not this property should even be owned. That's starting to switch back now. I think that they realize that they've gone a little bit too far, and you actually do need to incentivize people to invent and make these disclosures. But that's an ongoing process. And right now, China by far is the place, if you're going to have a patent, to file one. I wouldn't, if you were just going to file in Taiwan, I wouldn't waste my money. As the years go on, it probably what I find is that at most universities, a very small percentage of the patents that they have are ultimately infringed. And the reason is because most of you are far too ahead of your time. You need to understand that a patent, in the best case, lasts about 20 years from the time you file it. So as you're pursuing your invention, you might want to think about where it's realistic for the market to go. And one of the things that happens, particularly in academic environments, is that you're so far ahead of the market that the market may adopt your technology, but not within the relevant time, not within the relevant 20-year time period. So that's something else that I would keep in mind as a university owner or as a university inventor. I think that the future for most of the universities that are patent owners is that they will make that base decision that I talked about. It's our job to expose these ideas to the market. It's our job ultimately to make some return on them. And I can see great arguments for going down either path. It's just that if you're going to go down the we don't need to make money path, then what you might want to do is think about a cheaper and better way to make those disclosures. And I just read about a company that's doing that on the blockchain yesterday. And they're trying to eliminate deficiency in the patent system by eliminating patents, which is certainly one way to do it. So we have those opportunities. But the other thing is that assume that you have a patent and you're curious as to whether or not it's infringed, or anybody's using it. Understand that in today's market, that service is free. So you should be able to get that, is to have somebody assess what it is you have without a significant additional investment. There is a market that you can go to where you can pay a small fortune for that service, but generally I don't think you need it. And you're far better off talking to one of the groups that provide that service for you for free, so you can actually do an honest assessment. So as a university owner or as a professor owner, what I would do is that I would have that, if you have the patent or you have the application, I would spend the time to figure out whether or not anybody's using it, and then you can make a judgment as to whether or not you want to make the additional investment as to how to enforce it, whether or not you want to finance it yourself or have some third party finance it. But it's powerful information to have, and it's useful information to have. So bottom line is that I think that I think it is a great use of time. I think it's a good use of resources. But if you're going to spend the time, money, and resources to do it, you should have a plan before you start. Thank you.
I'm pretty good, and Eric is excellent at finding patterns which will bring you money. But what it means is that a patent was issued and now somebody is infringing. It means that patent was filed 5 or 10 years ago. After 10 years, it's easy for us to pinpoint which patent makes money. But when you come to me, I was working in the TRO at SNU. SNU receives about $500 to $600 million annually for R&D, by for the best university in Korea. And I was acting there as the chief of the TRO. But you come to me with great invention, and each and every one of you says, "Long-Tack, it's a great invention. In 5 years, you are going to make $2 million. And I'm trying to judge it, but you are the expert. I don't know exactly what your invention is. Then how do I select which one's good or which one's bad? That's impossible. So what should I do? I just stack them up. And if I don't find this application, you will add it. Okay, I should find it. So in the end, I end up filing all the invention disclosures. And the university doesn't have any money, so we have to pay about $1,500 to file one patent application. In the US, at least $10,000, $15,000, right? So we are paying 1/10 of the money. And how much money we want to make? Same, $1 million, right? You spend less money, but you want same money. So it doesn't work out. So I approached the Korean government, but it failed. But maybe the clever Taiwanese people can do it. So I proposed, when the professors conceive inventions, the university will own it, same. But when the professors want it, the university should give you the right to commercialize it. Then you will go up. You will find the private funding companies, or you will pay more money to the best patent attorneys. Then from the beginning, the patent will come out with the best quality you can. But university officers don't like it because, then they may lose their job or their business size may shrink. But think about that. All the money, your tax money, you invest into R&D or give birth to great inventions, but they are ruined because in the first phase, you pay only $1,000 or $1,500 to the patent attorneys. And with the small money, no good patent can come out. Unless the patent attorney is your girlfriend or boyfriend, right? So I think, to make money, patent users, then let's be more rational, practical. So, if you can kind of persuade the lawmakers, still university can keep the patent title, and when you make money, they will have their portion. But you, as the inventor, you have all the right to get the private funding and make good patent and fight in great nations, then your chance will increase. But I think, the current system, the university office taking care of all the inventions cannot work. I was, doing it there, and when I tried to do a little better, every morning I ended up reading 250 emails, which I cannot do. So, by giving the incentive back to the inventors, I think, maybe in Taiwan, the commercialization success probability may increase. Thank you.
Thank you. I just saw a movie, Steve Jobs, and in the movie, I still remember a speech Jobs, as Steve said, that a musician plays an instrument quite good. If you play an musical instrument very well, you are a musician. But if you are going to play an orchestra, then you should be conductor. I would say that Professor Sim and Professor Spangenberg are not just musicians or inventors for the musical instrument. You are conductors for
Thank you very
the
much.
orchestra and the whole market.
We insist, we argue.
Thank you. Okay, thank you for your insightful speeches. And we now open the floor for our colleagues and students for your questions. Please grab this great opportunity to make some comment or to raise your question for those two distinguished professors. As far as I know, Mr. Spangenberg also teach as a guest professor in Nanjing University of Science and Technology, right? Nanjing理工, yes. Right? Okay. So they both are academic professors and also, as you know, conductors in the market. Yeah, please.
So don't be afraid or don't be shy about asking money. We all live to make some money, right? So.
Yeah, I would say that if you are going to raise your question outside this university, you may have to pay quite a lot of money for just asking the question. So please save your money and grab this opportunity, please.
You are talking these topics in school pharmacy, and everybody in this room are thinking, develop or invent a new drug. So right now, very few company will technology transfer your patent only. Usually, after we conduct our inventor become a phase 2, even phase 2B clinical trial. After that, the pharmaceutical company may interest to have this technology transfer. So in this room, I'm thinking, because I had many years this kind of work, I'm thinking what kind of comment you have, especially apply your theory, your beautiful background. I totally agree with you what you just said. But can you go further, one step further to discuss for pharmaceutical new drugs or new medical devices after we get patent, and what can we do and move further, and how can we increase the possibility let the pharmaceutical company or medical device company to buy our technology, that kind of stuff.
For business questions. So I invest in a number of medical device companies, and about 3 years ago, I became wildly offended by something that pharmaceutical companies do. So there's this in the patent world, the deal is that you disclose and you get 20 years of exclusivity. What pharmaceutical companies do is that they disclose, they get 20 years of exclusivity, and then what they'll say, well, I'm going to change the formulation by adding something that I view as insignificant. And they say, well, we're part of the unpredictable arts, right? So we're unlike the electronic arts, which are predictable, just so you know they're not. We're in the unpredictable arts because it's chemistry, and who knows what's going to happen when we add add water to this, dry it differently. So the most outrageous example was there was a company out of Germany that they propofol, so used in I think 80% of the world's surgeries. And I was reading their patents, and I realized that the patent had nothing to do with the drug. it had nothing to do with anything about the drug other than it was a patent on the vial. And actually the rubber stopper that went in, and their invention was that they siliconized that rubber stopper as if like that was something. I mean, I'm not a chemist by training, and I was just appalled by this. In any event, so you have to understand, the reason I tell you that is not because what we did was so great, although we just knocked out that propofol patent and the propofol price is going to fall again. But I wanted to tell you what their mindset is, okay? So in the pharmaceutical space, the pharmaceutical companies' mindset is that they take so much risk in development, at least in their mind, that they can't afford to pick up your risk as well. And oh, by the way, you represent nothing but risk to them, okay? So understand how they see you. You come up with a new cure for whatever the indication is, your drug cures toenail fungus, whatever it is, that's a threat. It's not promising to them. It's a threat. They've already got that market. That's already allocated off to whoever it is that produces Jublia or whatever the drug is. So first of all, you need to find that. You need to find that mindset. So not to promote what we're doing next, but this really bothers me. And so one of the things is that I think that particularly in the pharmaceutical space, it's far too insular. So what we want to see happen is that, my background's in finance actually, is that, and there's a concept called portfolio theory. So what I need you to accept is, if you buy into our idea, is that, hey, I might have a great idea for a new chemical entity. I might have a great new idea, even for a new formulation, whatever it is, but recognizing that no one's going to invest the millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions, unless they have a diversified shot at doing it. So what we want to see happen to change this market is that more people that have these type of inventions combine them into pools to actually diversify the risk for more investors. If you do that, you will attract more capital. So in order to fix the problem that you're talking about, we need to change the financial model a little bit. It's a little different in the medical device space, and my team would be much more qualified to talk about that, but that's also a monopoly operation as well, okay? So there's a small number of competitors in that space. So if you're going to do back, you're going to run into Medtronic. If you're going to do knees, you're going to run into Stryker. And so you just need to have the mindset that it's difficult to attract capital to that new idea, because it's not just the money that you have to put it to work, it's the money, and oh, by the way, you're putting them at risk, and they're going to do everything they can to figure out a way around you and figure out a way to crush you. So again, what you need to do is I think, in order to be effective, is change your mindset as well, and be prepared to cooperate with more people in order to attract that capital. But on the medical device side,
No. I think there's time's up.
in addition to cooperating with others, which professors and researchers aren't necessarily the best at, but try. You have to take the. I mean, you're just independent. It's the nature of your. It's your mindset. What you have to get comfortable with is that would you rather own a smaller percentage of a $1 billion company or 100% of a $1 million company? In my mind, there's no choice. That's a very easy decision. So again, the opportunity, what you're seeing happen in the U.S., and I think it will make it around the world, is that these universities are applying models where they diversify the risk and attract more capital as a result of bringing in more different research projects within a particular vertical or area. NCE, New Chemical Entity, is a little bit different. I think that's going to probably organized by likely indication, but it's going to happen, and the first pools are out there forming. And shockingly enough, we're so awash in capital right now that the capacity is out there to invest in it.
I know how the organization works. I bet many of the inventions would be worth $1 million, or some of them may even be worth $100 million. But the current system you have in Korea does not work, because it's like 1/n. It doesn't. At the present, when you first invent, there's not much way to assess the real value of the invention. So I guess in the state, as I said, if you can devise some principle of national policy or university policy such that still universities gonna make the same money when you succeed. But if the university can give you some leadership to actively commercialize your own invention, then I think the chance will improve dramatically. You know, even though you may have filed 10 patents last year, you will know in your mind which is the top one and number 2 and number 3. But when they allow you to do your own business, then you may not file the number 7, 8, 9, 10 patents. Instead, you can focus on the top 4 patents, right? So I think, by giving you, incentives to be active, then I think the chance will approve. And in this case, you are asking the officer in the room to call Eric, but he will not call you. But if you can get the goal, you will call Eric, or you will fly to meet him, or you will bug him every day by sending him emails and phone calls, right? So it's a totally different game. So I would say that, if you can kind of, somehow change the structure, who can actually be in the front or monetizing the patent, then we may be able to see more success in this university than in other universities. I say the same thing in Korea, but nobody listens. Maybe I will try this, but they don't listen back. Any final comment you want to add?
No, but thank you, and I hope that you guys learn a little bit new today and go out and pursue your dream.
Oh, okay, as a private university, I think this college of Taipei Medical University can get some idea and some strategy for promoting or protecting your patents that the colleagues have invented during these decades. So I hope, as an outsider, although my university is also bears the same name as Taipei, National Taipei University, but my university is a public university, so it might be some, stupid. We cannot use the commercial way to promote or to make the commercial evaluation of our inventions. So I do hope this university will get some ideas, some insight from the speeches that Professor Sim and Professor Spangenberg had just given to us. And at this moment, I would like to thank our two distinguished speakers and also the organizer Mei-Hsin Wang and also Vice Dean and Professor Lee and all our Professor Zheng and some other professor that I cannot name at this moment. And thank you for your comment, and thank you all the students, and thank you. Yeah.